Hi, my name is Mason, and I work for Comet Backup here in New Zealand. Welcome along to another Technical Highlights webinar. This is episode 16. During these videos I usually talk for about half an hour on some Comet topics, also best practice tips, IT industry news, although today I'm going to try and move things along a bit faster than that. I do give one of these Comet technical presentations every month, and on the webinar platform you can sign up for notifications about when we go live. There was a bit of a scheduling issue with today's webinar and we had to push it back, so it's great to have that subscription feature so you can know if the date has to change for whatever reason. But you've made it, you're all here today. It is currently 9 AM on September the 1st, 2021, down here in New Zealand. I usually reserve a few minutes at the end of these webinars for a live question and answer session on these webinars as well, but for technical reasons I'm not able to do that today. That segment should return next month. And of course we're always happy to answer your questions via support ticket. So, I do these every month. Last month was a special security-focused episode where I was joined by my colleague Josh, and we talked about a lot of security features in Comet, including big picture stuff, corporate responsibility, breach notifications. We also dove into product security features such as SSL certificates and Let's Encrypt. We also talked about admin account security, including U2F keys and LDAP integration. We talked about code signing and policies around client-side access control restrictions. We also talked about encryption at rest and in transit. So that was last month. If you're interested in learning anything more about these topics, the previous webinar is available to watch again on our YouTube channel or on this platform. So that was last time. This month's webinar, there's been lots of exciting new development recently that I can tell you about, so there's a lot to catch up on. So I hope you've got a coffee, and let's get stuck into it. I'm very pleased to announce our latest quarterly software release, 21.8 Amalthea. Amalthea is the latest entry in our quarterly roll-up series. So what we do here is this branches off from our main rolling Voyager development into a fixed target for our partners to qualify and build upon. Comet Amalthea takes its name from another moon of Jupiter. This is the fifth moon to be discovered. It's coincidentally the fifth largest. So the last few quarterly releases of Comet have all been named after moons of Jupiter. We've had Io, Ganymede and so on, and it turns out Jupiter has actually quite a lot of moons, so we can use this naming system for a while. The photograph I'm showing is a little bit special. Well, these moons are all very, very far away, so every photo that humankind has is quite special. But this particular photo was taken in 1979 when the moon Amalthea was directly photographed by the Voyager 1 and 2 spacecraft as they sped on past it, which is a really cool tie-in for us because that's exactly the kind of metaphor we're trying to go for. Voyager is the release track that always continues on, it goes further and further towards adding new features, and at any time if you're satisfied with a feature set you can settle down onto one of these planets or moons and just get security updates and bug fixes for a while. Just lets you settle down a bit, because we do update Comet very frequently, roughly once per week. And sometimes if you don't need the very latest features, then it's easy to just stick with upgrading once a quarter instead. And compared to our previous quarterly release, Callisto, back in late June, this time we've added 7 new features and 11 enhancements, and that's just from looking at the changelog. Although this quarter these numbers actually don't tell the full story, and I'll go into more detail about that shortly. But first I'd like to, let's just dive into talking about a few of these 7 new features added in Amalthea. Updated translations. Amalthea has 100% text translation coverage for all our 11 supported languages. Did you know that you can use Comet in 11 different languages? It's great to know that you can tell your customers with confidence that yes, maybe I'm French and the software really is in French and everything you click it's going to be in French. And as an MSP, it's about putting your best foot forward to your customers. And both desktop and web. So when you go to install Comet Backup on desktop, you'll be prompted for the language setting, or you can change it at any time in your settings page, and in the web interface it tries to automatically detect your language, or on the web there's a drop-down menu with a world icon in the top right. And as an administrator, as an MSP, you can remotely manage this setting for your users at any time on their user settings page. These translations come from a mix of sources. Sometimes we've had staff who can translate, sometimes we've had partners generously supply translations, and for everything else we have to hire contractors to do the translation for us, and that's how we've achieved 100% coverage here. Contractors do a great job in general. They do have one fundamental problem, which is that they never have that deep product knowledge about Comet, about the IT industry, and about backup software in particular. It's getting a little bit better because you can see here after 2,000 phrases, the translators have a bit more examples to work from. But the best quality translations actually come from you, yes, you watching this video. It's actually our partners, our MSPs, you guys who know the software inside out, who are much better positioned to provide more accurate translations. So for that reason, we do keep all our language translation files publicly available on our GitHub page. That's github.com/cometbackup, and click on public translations. If you speak a second language, whether that's a different language that Comet doesn't support yet, or maybe you've noticed a typo or something that's inaccurate, then please would love your assistance in improving Comet. It makes Comet more widely usable in your community and amongst your customer base, and of course we're happy to make it worth your while. Maybe you just speak English. I'm trying to get you excited about Comet 21.8 Amalthea, so another new feature to highlight is the new Test Connection button in the Storage Vault settings, here at the bottom of the window. If you're entering custom FTP or SFTP, Backblaze, Wasabi details, you're trying to set up a Windows network share or something like that, you'll know sometimes it can be frustrating to take multiple attempts to get the settings right. For Wasabi, in particular, in the screenshot here, we sometimes get support issues where people have just gotten the two key fields mixed around the wrong way. Easy mistake to make, happens to the best of us. So we've just added this little test connection button, which you can use to immediately check if the details are correct. It just really shortens down that test cycle of, do you have to run a backup and then see if it worked and then come back to the screen again? No, now it's much simpler. Just click the button. This feature is available both in the Comet Backup desktop app and remotely via the Comet Server web interface. When you use this feature remotely, it's remote controlling an online device to do that test connection. So you're not just simply testing the credentials, you're actually checking that from that customer's device's, their network position, you actually get an end-to-end connection, and that gives you a really high level of confidence that it's going to work just as well when the backup job itself starts to run. Advanced filter. I did cover this in a recent webinar, but I'd like to cover it again. Comet has always supported including files and then excluding by pattern or by regular expression. What is new in this past Voyager cycle and now landing in Amalthea is the ability to include files by pattern or regex. So for instance, this allows you to back up all Word documents in C drive, or it allows you to back up the documents folder for all users inside the C drive users folder. You use this feature from the desktop app. You just click the plus drop down and then select advanced filter. It used to be named exclude, but now it also has this advanced include functionality. It's available in the desktop app and also in the Comet Server web interface, of course. One thing that you will see here in the screenshot is that you have to specify a top directory. This is the directory that will be searched for matches. If you're looking for all Word documents, it's a bit faster if you just search for them inside C drive/users rather than all of C drive. We've made a few other small changes to increase the usability of this dialog. The dialog now warns you immediately when you enter invalid syntax, either regex or pattern syntax, and there are examples for both the pattern and regex features. So that's wildcard includes. Now, onto the topic that here at Comet we've been spending most of our time on recently, and that is, of course, Office 365 improvements. So Comet supports backing up Microsoft Office 365. It's a little bit interesting to see how our partners have made use of this feature because it's a protected item type. We built it out as a protected item type in Comet so that you can back up Office 365, and it takes advantage of all of our chunking, encryption, deduplication support, and so on, and that was the right decision. It does kind of lend the impression that you have to run it on the customer's PCs, and you can run it on the customer's PCs, which is kind of interesting if maybe they want to have an on-premise backup going to on-prem storage. But I think a little bit more common these days is the desire for a service provider to instead host it on behalf of your customers in the cloud. If you're the type of MSP that is responsible for reselling Office 365 services anyway, like if you're a CSP, or then being able to offer a backup service along with that is a highly compelling value add thing to do. And you can do that right now with Comet. The way you do it is to have one VPS or cloud server somewhere just running Comet backup. And when your customer says, hey, can you please back up my Office 365 tenant organization? Well, you've got this box running Comet. You just set that customer up as a second protected item inside your same Comet app. You can have multiple protected items for different tenants. When you do it this way, you're in full control of the job schedules, you're in full control of the data storage location, the retention history, and it's all managed through the familiar Comet interface. So that's just one idea about how MSPs can provide Office 365 backup as a service without needing any PC hardware at the customer's site. And we're looking at ways that maybe we can streamline out this process in the future. If you are using the Office 365 backup job support, then you would be pleased to see the progress we've made over the last 3 months, and that progress comes in many different areas. If you last tried it back at the launch of Comet 21.6.0, then over the last 3 months, almost every single release of Comet in that last 3 months time frame has contained improvements and upgrades for our Office 365 support. We've improved restoring. So more specifically about restoring, when we launched Office 365 backup support, we're trying to cover emails, calendars, contacts, OneDrive, SharePoint, both lists and sites, Teams files. It's actually quite a big list of services, and they all do need to be treated with some individual care and attention. So we originally shipped with a fully functional backup coverage across these services, and you could restore emails as local files, or you could restore emails to the cloud, and much more. You could restore most of these too. We did still have some small coverage gaps that we've been rounding out since then. So with the latest version of Comet, it is now possible to restore SharePoint lists, calendar events, and OneDrive files back to their original cloud locations. And we also added support for restoring SharePoint Online list items back as local files. And that means 100% of the Office 365 services that you back up with Comet can be fully restored back to their original cloud locations or back as local files. So you've got both options fully available for every service. A quick note about local files. The online services for Office 365 are a slightly different product to their on-prem versions, and so outside of the big, Mail and OneDrive, we needed to use some custom file formats for the other services, but they do get fully restored normally as JSON documents in Microsoft Graph schema format, and that preserves a very high and rigorous level of data fidelity. So we really are fully preserving all of that important information across all supported Office 365 services. Something else to say about Restore. I've got so much to say about Restore. We also brought the Comet Server web interface features more closely up to parity with the desktop app. So it's now possible to kickstart a device to perform a cloud-to-cloud restore using only the Comet Server web interface. As well as improving the restore support, we've improved the compatibility. It is now possible to use isolated Office 365 regions. So if you're based in Germany, China, or if you have US government tenants, you might be aware it's important that the software has to talk to, there's like an isolated, siloed version of Office 365 for these specific regions instead of using the general public Office 365. So that's now fully supported. We also made a lot of improvements to the registration system, the part where Comet gets permission to run the backups inside Azure AD, registering as an application. It's now easier, faster, and more reliable to register Comet into your Office 365 account. The test connections button here is also more accurate about doing the real test, and so overall this feature is now highly reliable at gaining that account access. We've also improved the cosmetic interface. We're much more clear about iconography. It's clear to see the distinction between SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams folders anytime you see this, so both when going to restore and when making your selections for backup. We've improved labels, error messages, the selection dialog, and overall it's just a bit clearer to see what you're doing and setting up here. And we have plans to simplify and improve it even further. And of course, we've also improved the performance. Notably, we've managed to cut down the memory usage. It's reduced quite a lot, especially for OneDrive, and additionally if you have a large number of mailboxes to back up. So that's about it for improvements. There's a lot of them. I haven't gone into, it sounds like I've gone into quite a lot of specific detail. I actually haven't. There's a lot more detail on the fixes, but overall it's really maturing nicely as a product feature for Comet. One last thing to say about Office 365, specifically for Comet 21.8 Amalthea, is that it does not include the Office 365 feature. We did release Office 365 backup support 3 months ago in Comet 21.6 Voyager, and we've seen a lot of positive uptake and feedback about it. We've been working on improving it this whole time. We've made a lot of significant improvements, but with regards to our quarterly kind of fixed feature set Amalthea release, we made the call that this feature just requires a bit more time to sit in Voyager to help us improve it even more for the broad variety of Office 365 setups that we've started seeing in the wild. So if you're using the Office 365 backup job support, then that's great, easy. Please just stay on the Voyager track for now. We have opened Comet 21.9 Voyager already with all the features from Amalthea, but with the Office 365 support still available. So that's your continuity path here to Comet 21.9 Voyager. We have always supported both tracks simultaneously, and we will continue to do so. That's actually all from me, cutting it a bit short today. Unfortunately, I'm not able to take any live questions today, but just to recap, I talked about the launch of Comet 21.8 Amalthea, our latest quarterly release, including full translation coverage and how you can help improve those translations. I talked about the new test connections feature for storage vaults. I talked about the advanced filter for wildcard inclusions to back up, all Word documents in C Drive. And a big summary of Office 365 and all the improvements we've been focusing on this quarter. Apologies again for not being able to take live questions today, but we do still want to hear from you. If you have any questions at all, we're always happy to help out. We've recently invested further in growing our support team, and we're more than happy to take your questions by ticket through the usual ticket system at account.cometbackup.com, or you can email us, hello@cometbackup.com, or we actually support phone calls. Our company is based in New Zealand. We do have international support teams for round-the-clock level 1 technical support in the tickets, but if you want a sales call or if you want any more advanced technical support or troubleshooting, we'll need to figure out a good time that suits both us in New Zealand and you in your country. We're actually about to head into our daylight savings time zone soon, so we'll go from UTC plus 12 to UTC plus 13. So just makes scheduling a little bit more complicated, but all you have to do is go to the Comet website. At the bottom of the page you click Contact Us, and then there's an option to schedule a phone call with a time zone widget. It shows our available times and it will just work out everything for you. We're more than happy to jump on a call. Often that's a very quick way of clearing the air and getting answers to any questions you might have. So that's all from me. Please check out the latest version of Comet, upgrade your servers. Software upgrades are always free. We keep all the old software versions available if you ever need them for anything. Hope you're all keeping well and safe. And the webinar series is back on its regular monthly schedule, so I'll see you all in just under a month's time. Cheers.